Tony, since I made you wait, I actually went to the bathroom and I was using some mouthwash and cleaning my teeth because I wanted to make sure my teeth were squeaky clean before we started recording this. This is a joke that nobody but Persona fans who listen to the music on YouTube will understand.
I think you told me this before. You explained oh, this song is squeaky clean.
When they released the
Persona name,
when they released the Persona 3, they were going to release the soundtrack later on like Spotify and stuff, like the official version. So people were uploading their own versions based on stuff that's been heard from trailers. So they were trying to clean up the music themselves and upload it onto YouTube. So they would just keep re-releasing versions. So it would be like, oh, it's going down, highest quality version. And then to a point where the title of the YouTube videos were like, it's going down, Persona 2024 Squeaky Clean Edition. Squeakiest, cleaniest one, you know? Which it became like a bit of a meme. We're getting out of Tartarus with this one. But one thing, because I've been playing this through Games Pass, right? Persona 3 Reload, and I wanted to get the soundtrack. I was like, okay, I'll just buy the soundtrack on Steam, maybe, because I don't have to buy the game because I play it on Games Pass.
That would make a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this is the game where people shoot themselves in the head. There should be a content warning, but this game came out on the same day as Suicide Squad. It's not a coincidence, guys. It was not a coincidence. So anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so they released the soundtrack for this, and they don't give you the MP3 files. So the way the soundtrack works for this game is it's like an Unreal Engine like game that you launch that you then listen to the music through. You don't even get access to the songs. And
oh my god,
one of the whole reasons I started playing Persona was because I listened to the soundtrack and I was like, the soundtrack to the Persona games are fucking awesome. I've got to play one of these. Like I remember I was doing a music madness bracket thing. And basically it gives you a bunch of video game soundtracks and it's like you have to pick which one's the better one. And every time I was like, I've never heard this song. It's from a game called Persona, and it's fucking amazing. So I was like, I've never played this Persona game, but I fucking adore the soundtrack. And
right.
You remember at the start of this year, I said I wanted to play more Japanese games.
Yeah, I remember the year of Japan.
The year of Japan. I've never played a Persona game. I don't think you have either, right?
Neither have I.
Yeah.
No.
But it's always been like something I'm like, people seem to love these games. Like, they don't just... When people talk about and play Persona games, they're not like, yeah, they're okay. They're like, their entire personalities are based on... Like, the fandom for this is crazy, right?
And they're always excited for the next one or some other DLC or whatever's coming out soon. So,
and people are like, people talk about these Persona games as if they're one of the God's gift to the world, right?
Yeah.
So this came out day one on Games Pass, and I was like, you know what? I have Games Pass. There is like no reason. There's like no reason to not try this. There's no like investment that I don't have to buy the game. I can just load it up for a little bit, and if I like it, I'll keep playing. Like, surely I won't load up Persona 3 Reload and like play it for the next 80 hours and really enjoy it, right? Well, here I am 82 hours later to tell you, I kind of think I understand what people are going on about now, because this game is fucking phenomenal. And it's so hard to put my finger on exactly why, but I'm going to try and explain it to you over the course of probably the next 3 hours of why Persona 3 is really fucking good. So, from what I understand, from what I've looked into stuff after I play the game, there's five mainline Persona games. The first two are really unlike the third game. So they're all kind of anthology games. So 1 and 2 are just straight up like dungeon crawler games. So the main gameplay meat of Persona is it's essentially sort of like a turn-based RPG sort of Pokemon style thing, right? Where you have these things called personas which you summon, And when you summon these personas, they have strengths and weaknesses, and usually you want to try and find the weakness of the enemy shadow, because if you knock down all of the shadows with their weaknesses, you get to do what's called an all-out attack. You get to do like a bunch of damage to them.
Yeah. It's kind of, as I say, it's the Warlock version of Pokemon. Like
the what? Oh, the mushrooms. Warlocks are mushrooms.
Well, you know, like you're basically in control of other avatars. Like how I think about it. Like again, I've not played Persona, so I'm relying entirely on your description.
So one and two don't have any of the social link stuff, for example.
Okay, right.
So Persona 3 was the first Persona game to be like, why don't we have like half of the game be dungeon crawling and then the other half of the game being like farming social interactions, like almost like a visual novel between two characters. And it just blends so perfectly. I cannot express why. Oh, here we are. Joe Baloney, my name. I found it hilarious because they kept calling me like Baloney Kun and Baloney San, because they call you by your surname.
Yeah.
So yeah, the main meat and bones is, so this is the start of the story. Maybe I should go into Persona history more. Persona 3 was the first one that really cemented Persona as social link dungeon crawler game, and then the 5th game came out, and I think the 5th game really cemented the modern day style of Persona. Like the actual, like, Persona is so fucking stylish and like almost like an attitude funkiness to it.
Yeah, like the UI and
the UI is amazing. Like every menu I go through, I'm like, man, this is like so well designed, and like the music, the sound, it's like it reminds me of stuff like Jet Set Radio, where it's like jazz, like funk, J-pop, like with like hip hop elements. It's like it's really really good. So this is you getting introduced to the main characters. But yeah, so Persona 3 came out many years ago on the PS2. It was later re-released on the PSP with like chibi versions of the characters. I think it's called Fez Edition. And then, because Atlas is, from what I've learned, Atlas is now known for re-releasing things a lot. Like they've made, this is the 3rd version of Persona 3. And like people will be like, oh, I'm not buying that remake of a Persona game because Atlas will release another one with even more content, sort of thing. Like people are saying, because there's a version of Persona 4 that they've re-released for PC called Persona 4 Golden Edition, I think it is. But people are like, oh, they're just going to make a, full-on remake like Persona 3 Reload, or with like Persona 5 was originally a PS5 exclusive. But when they brought it to PC, we had Persona 5 Reload Edition, which had all the DLC. Persona 5 Royal Edition, which had all the DLC and stuff.
Your things should already be there.
Basics.
Those ones that like add more DLC to make it the definitive edition isn't definitive anymore.
Yeah.
Like, is that what they do as well?
So the story of Persona 3 is you start out and you just transfer to a new school. I think every single Persona game, you're high schoolers. I think it's every single one is based around a Japanese high school, which is how I found out apparently in Japan they go to school on Saturdays, because I was like, it's Saturday, why do I keep going to school? But yeah, that's something I've learned about Japan. I think they may have changed it recently, like they don't, but this is set in 2008, because that's around when the game sort of came out, I believe, because you have like an iPod and you have a flip phone, stuff like that. But the idea is every night at 12 p.m. there's a thing called the Dark Hour, where everybody but Persona users gets turned into coffins, and nobody else has any memory of this happening. But you, as a Persona user, you have the ability to summon Personas, and these shadows come out and attack you, and then you go out and fight them by summoning your Personas to protect people. And the dorm that you get put into is called SEES. I can't remember what SCES stands for, but basically you build this team of people who are trying to defeat shadows in order to basically try and stop the Dark Hour from happening. Because as well as the Dark Hour happening, is the fact that people are getting something called apathy syndrome, that basically is turning them into zombies. And when you defeat shadows, the cases of apathy syndrome go down. So you're like, okay, I need to defeat shadows and stop the dark hour to stop these people like getting sick, basically.
So
I don't.
do you
Oh,
know
go
at
on.
the start of the game why you can see this?
Why you can go into the dark hour?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's really ever explained why. There is certain reason why certain Persona users can use Personas and stuff like that, but I don't want to go too deep into the
Right.
story. I'm going to try and keep this spoiler free because it's a very decent story. I will say, like, I really enjoyed the story of Persona 3. It's also, like, from what I've heard, a lot darker than a lot of the other Persona games, where, like, you are
Right,
literally,
okay.
like, shooting yourself in the head to summon Personas. There's lots of themes of, like, suicide, depression, self-harm, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's something I've experienced recently while playing Japanese games, is something that I've always struggled to put my finger on. But it's like when I tried to play like Yakuza and Persona, they are really cheesy but also deadly sincere at the same time, and it's such a hard thing to describe how they can be so, you know, cheesy and funny and light-hearted, but also like deeply sincere and caring at the same time in a way that doesn't.
It's like
Yeah.
I'm just at how the characters act and things that but also the themes that are.
I heard like
Being shown.
maybe like Final Fantasy is also like this, where it's very cheesy but also wholesome at the same time.
Yeah.
But that was something that surprised me, because that's not something that tone. That's not something I've really experienced until I tried playing a lot more Japanese games. I played with the English dub because that was the default dub. Apparently, to change the dub language, you have to change your Windows language, and I was like, I think the English dub is English dub is fine.
Yeah, that's too far.
Here we are. Allow me to welcome you to Gecko
But this
Contact.
Persona game apparently has
Hope you like it.
some of the most voice acting of. I think it has the most voice acting of any Persona game.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of voice acting in it, but there is
I-
still sections with just text.
I guess you should go see
Yeah.
your homeroom teacher
I just would
first.
assume that later
The
ones
office
would
is
get
over
more,
there
but
on the left.
okay.
They'll tell you. Oh, that about does it. And
I do have footage of just the combat section, and it's like a late stage of the game, but it won't go into any spoilery stuff at all. So when I'm talking about gameplay, I can switch to that and be like, okay, here's how you control your character and switch stuff together.
Okay.
So yeah,
So I guess you would you don't want to spoil the story because you
no.
recommend people
Tony,
experience it
when-
yourself or themselves.
When I was playing Persona, I was like, I love this game. I want to keep playing it. And I would just tell you, like, finishing Persona 3, I just felt fucking depressed. I was like, what do I do now?
Okay.
Like, the game made me feel so empty. Like, because one of the big things in Persona is your social links. And basically, when you summon a Persona, they have a corresponding social link, which is a person in the world. So in order to become
Yeah,
stronger,
makes sense.
you need to increase your friendships and relationships with people. So say, for example, your classmate, he is the magician, Arcana. And when you go out and you talk to him and you interact with him, you level up your magician. And when you go to the Velvet Room, which is like a magical place where you can summon personas, your level will dictate how strong the persona you can summon is.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
your social stuff directly impacts your
Cause, what are you doing?
your actual dungeon crawling, like meaty gameplay sort of stuff. And it's this really interesting balance between like,
We've got to attend the opening
oh man. So
ceremony and go to
another thing I want to mention about Japanese games, I talked about this in Sekiro. Sekiro is like in Western game design. They're so scared of you missing anything that they won't ever let you fuck up. And
Yeah. it's kind of-
when I played Sekiro, it was like, oh, you missed this quest before you talk to this character. You can't do that anymore.
I can't keep
Like a Western game would be like, no, we'll let you replay through this part and do this stuff again. Persona
Yeah.
is set on a calendar system, and it's set on a day system. Time is really important in Persona. Like, maximizing what you're doing in the day is really, really important. Like, I want to try and spend as much time as possible, like, directing my focus, but like, okay, this character's here on Wednesdays, this character's got practice on Fridays, I want to speak to this person today, I want to do this today, sort of thing, right? And you can miss stuff. Like, I didn't farm every social link. Like, in my playthrough of like 82 hours, there's a tons of characters whose stories I've never finished because I just couldn't manage my time to speak to everybody. Like, literally, there's one character I think that you can only talk to on Sundays, and he appears in like the latter half of the game, and it's like quite hard to speak to him. Like, it's possible to complete the game with farming every social link, but you would need some sort of like guide to be like, okay, on this day you need to do this activity, sort of like level.
Like
My advice as a new player
route.
who went in like completely blind, don't worry about doing every social link. Just worry about talking to the characters that you find interesting. Because as you talk to the characters, okay, this is the French guy. I never spoke to the French guy. He's the French exchange student.
Don't speak to the French
I have
guy.
no idea what the French exchange student story is because I was like, I don't want to speak to the French guy. Fuck this guy's story. I didn't speak to the. I joined the art class, but I barely spoke to the art class guy. I made sure to get like a lot of the social links I was interested in. Like, for example, the magician guy in the classroom I was talking about, his story is that he fancies one of the teachers and he wants to gain a relationship with them. And I'm like, this is an interesting story. I mean, I just want to see where this goes. Like, sometimes you will go into a social link being, okay, I've been using this persona and I really like this persona. Let's level up this persona. But then you're like, well, actually, I'm going to do this social link because this story is really interesting. I just want to see where this is going.
Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah,
But
that's really powerful as a concept, though.
The range of characters is really diverse as well because you'll have people who are, you have school students, but you also have like the old couple who run the bookstore, who I lovingly refer to as my grandparents now because I've spent so much time with them. Like, I was like, okay, I'm going to go and hang out with my grandparents at the bookstore today. Like, you remember I was talking about The Witcher 3 and I was like, I started to get so parasocial with like Triss Merigold because I spent so much time in that game. I was like, Persona, I was like, okay, I'm gonna hang out with my friends today. I've got to go and visit my grandparents today. I've got to go and speak to my girlfriend. It's like I'm like having this checklist of parasocial relationships I need to fill out, and it's like the game is completely designed in that way to like. I feel like it's a game for lonely people, Persona, a lot of ways. Like it's a game where it fills in that void of like social interactions in a shockingly good way. It's a weird experience to have, but
I assume the regimented like style like really like helps that sort of way of thinking as well. So yeah, I can totally see that.
Oh, really? I thought you might know.
Yeah, you can, because there's certain characters that you can have like a romantic relationships with. And then what happened was I got into a romantic relationship with one of the girls, and then I realized that I could do it with another, and the game's like, you've already entered a romantic relationship with this girl. Are you sure about this? And I was like, I wonder how many girlfriends I could collect. I think by the end of the game I had like 5, which is really funny because on Christmas Day, the game's like, oh, you can, is it Asia? But like, I think specifically in like places like Korea, Christmas isn't a family holiday; it's a couple's holiday. So on Christmas you spend Christmas with like a loved one, like a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever. So it's like, which one of your girlfriends do you want to spend Christmas with? And it just pops up with this list of like 5 people, and I'm like, oh shit, I've got to decide which one I want to hang out with.
No, this didn't have to be.
I heard that you can. So when you talk to someone, your social link with them increases. I've heard that your social links can revert if they find out about each other.
Right.
But I never experienced that.
There are consequences, yeah.
Yeah, like if you say I love you to one of the girls and then you're like, okay, I'm going to do that to the other girl, and the other girl finds out about it, then she's like, okay, you're gonna have to spend some more time to me to repair the social link.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because every single action you have when talking to somebody is will get social points with them based on whether they like your response or not. So like a main part of the gameplay for the social aspect will be trying to figure out their personality and what they want to hear. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like you're trying to, in a way, you're trying to learn the personality of the person, but you also need to kind of change yourself to appeal to them in a way. Or you can, like, there's literally tons of options to just be a dick and just be like, oh, I really like hanging out with you, and you're like, I don't care. Like, just leave me alone. If you want to.
Right. The schizo.
Yeah. But also at the same time, like, when you're doing social links, you need to think about your stats. So you have 3 sets of stats. You have charm, intelligence, and confidence. And these are important because certain social links can only be unlocked after you've reached a certain level of that social link. And the problem with that is farming your statistics takes up time. So whenever I'm like training my academics in the library, I'm not farming a social link with somebody else. So you have to try and like balance. Your time is really important in this game, and it's really interesting to try and balance it. But it's like, so for example, so in the game there's a place called Tartarus. So in the dark hour, the school turns into this giant tower full of shadows, and the kind of the main thread of the game, this is without spoiling anything, is that you're trying to climb the tower, right? So any night you want, you can go to Tartarus and you can go and slay demons and level up and get XP. But a lot of the time when I was going to Tartarus, I was trying to clear it in one night as quickly as possible, because you get to a point in the tower where the tower's blocked off and then it won't open up until you get to a certain point in the story. So the main objective for me was like, okay, I'm going to go into Tartarus and I'm going to basically get to the point where I can't go any further, so that by the time I get to the next point in the story, I'll be able to bash out really quickly, and that'll give me more time for my social links. Because one of the only times where like time's kind of frozen is Tartarus, because the dark hour is just keeps going until you leave. So you can spend as long as you want inside Tartarus, the tower, which I think Tartarus is like a Greek or a Roman, like it's an actual mythological place sort of thing. It's like an underworld or something.
I don't remember where it's from, but I've heard it in passing, so I want to say it. Yeah, it's like Greek or
yeah,
I think it's Greek.
Because like everything's based on arcanas, as I'm talking about. So literally, you have like the death card. This is the strength card, and that'll be assigned to a person. And then and when you summon these personas, will appear as that character. Like you'll have the devil persona, and then the personas you can summon will be like demonic creatures, for example. Or the strength personas, they'll have like really high strength stats, which means their physical attacks will deal more damage, and they'll look like big burly dudes with swords and stuff. So the theming is really well. Oh, also, by the way, Tony, this game has ray tracing turned on by default. This game features ray trace reflections, and the only way to turn it off is by turning off like reflections, and that doesn't turn off reflections. It turns off ray trace reflection and replaces them with screen space ones. It's just strange Japanese dev things. Another thing is the game can run up to 120 FPS, which is nice to see, because I think more devs are doing that these days. Especially like I think Japan was kind of far behind this until like I think Armored Core was the first From Software game to feature 120 FPS mode. Like every single Souls games before has been capped to 60 FPS. So that's, sometimes I've seen like Japanese developed games can be slightly behind on tech sometimes. In that sense, that's more important to a Western audience. But man, just going.
It's still implemented weirdly though.
Just going around this school, like I know the exact layout of this school. I know the exact layout of the town. Like you will do this so many times. Yeah, like by the end of the game, you will know the layout of everything, and you will know every character, and you will know all their stories because that is the game, sort of thing. And it's done. It's not in a way where they're like, here's a bunch of text and here's a lore dump. It's like you just naturally get to know these people in a way that feels really organic. And then by the end of the game, you're like, oh shit, I'm fucking depressed because now I'm gone. Now I'm stopped playing the game. Like I have to stop talking to these people.
It's like a bittersweet sort of. You finished it, but yeah, you can't. You're done.
Like I would love to like go in and deep dive and talk about like the like story and stuff, but I think it's more important to say to people like, I think you should just play this game. Like, honestly, if you have something like Games Pass, there is not a better game to check out because this game is expensive. Like, Atlas games are usually quite expensive. It's like £60, something like that on Steam, right? It's like a fully priced game. £50-60 or whatever. And you can just get Games Pass and play it for like a month or whatever. Or, as I say, it'll take me like, what, a couple weeks to beat this, and it takes me like...
Yeah.
It takes me like an entire month of actually like every day playing it sort of thing, but spaced out sort of thing. Like it took, like I remember when I played Sekiro, it took me like a month of playing most days to beat it. And like Persona was a similar thing where it's like, I just had to sit down and play it like I do big sessions, but every now and then it'd be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play Persona for like 5 hours or something like that, you know, or sit down and play Persona for like 8 hours or something.
You actually have to commit.
Yeah, because initially I was like, okay, I can go on Discord and I can talk to my friends and I can stream this and stuff. And it's like, actually, this is kind of a bad stream game. There's a lot of story stuff and dialogue and talking and listening to what people are saying. And I think if you're sitting and having a conversation with somebody else, you're not going to really get a good experience out of this game. It's definitely not like a podcast game.
You need... so you're saying you need
it's my grandparents.
These. Okay. Yeah,
it's
I
like,
can see
the cheesy stuff is like, because the game just goes from like cheesy to so sincere. Because like you're talking to a character and it's like, oh hey, how's it going? You come from the school. You're being so nice to me. I forget some stuff sometimes. I'm like an old man sort of thing, right? And then you're like, you start having a conversation with him, and just out of nowhere, he's like, you'll just be playing this nice light-heart music, and then suddenly it'll just go, ha ha ha, you remind me of my dead grandson. And then suddenly it's just like a flip, and it's like, it's deeply like depressing and sincere, and it's just like, oh, okay, I didn't know I was about to get hit in the feels sort of thing, you know?
Yeah. It's very distinct, very Japanese. Like, I don't know where that comes from either.
Dude. I said I will not apologize for singing any of the songs because I've listened to the soundtrack so much, and as you play the game, you'll know all the music. And Ita Tawadai Dorm's coming up. What a fucking banger! Honestly, if you've never listened to the soundtrack of a Persona game, pick any of them and just listen to it, and tell me this is not just one of the most kick-ass things you've ever listened to. Like, one of the things what made me really want to play Persona before I played it was I heard the Persona 5 soundtrack, and I was like, what the hell? Like Beneath the Mask. I heard that song and I was like, okay, who let these guys cook? Like it's absolutely insane how good this is. So dance if you want to go ahead. Free to do whatever. I'm chilling on my bed.
I guess beyond like, how many songs are there that you don't have proper access to?
I think you can listen to some Magic on Beers. Here it is. We can do it. Say, hey, filling the fire with the burning desire. You spend so much time in this dorm, you will hear this song 1,000 times. And every time you'll be like, yes, Iwatare Dorm's playing again. That's my favorite song. I want to listen to it again. Such a fucking banger soundtrack. But yeah, there's tons of songs, and they're all like a lot of them are remixes of the original songs, but there's even some original songs as well, and they've been remixed in a way where they're actually quite different from a lot of the original songs. Like I would say it's almost like a new soundtrack in a lot of ways. Like there is returning songs, but they've been changed up a lot as well, which is really, really cool to see, because the original soundtrack is awesome as well. But I think
it adds a lot. I think they go back and add new different things inspired by.
I love like some of the you can tell like the woman singing in some of them, like English is not her first language, because some of the ways she said words is some of the most Jinglish ways to say words, like Japanese English, like where you know, like it's like that's such a strange way to say that word. Like if you were a native English speaker, you wouldn't say it that way, but in like a sincere way.
Or an endearing way.
Yeah. Like I love that stuff. I think it's so interesting.
But it's kind of like I don't know if you noticed this, but like on certain accents from other languages, it's like they pause at different spots. You're like, okay, that's kind of cute. It's kind of like that.
Will you be okay out
But like
there on your own?
some of the lyrics to the songs, I'm like, this is utter nonsense, but I'm still singing it out loud like it's the most impactful thing ever said.
Right.
This isn't
It's like disturbing the peace. It's like, what does that even mean?
I think that's a police thing.
Yeah. Disturbing the peace. Look into my eyes and tell me all the things you've been laughing about behind my back. Like the battle themes are bangers as well, because you'll get into a battle and you're like, okay, I'm ready to battle now. So if I have any like social link stuff on here. I like how the dorm gets like attacked, and without hesitation, the main character just pulls the gun and shoots himself in the like. No one's told him to do anything, but he's like, "Oh, there's a gun on the floor," and he immediately shoots himself in the head. One of the big differences.
Main character vibes.
One of the big differences between the original game is there's no female main character. So in the original, I can't know if it's the original or the PSP version, there's the feminine version of the main character, but in this game there's only the male one, which I know some of the fans were not happy about.
So this is how it all started.
Yeah. How'd you guys
I'm
get to
very
shoot
confused.
yourself in the head?
Yeah,
Well-
okay.
Yeah,
It's a banging music, don't get me wrong.
So the thing that's special about you is normally people only have one persona. But the thing with you is you're able to summon and use different personas. So you have like a Pokemon, like you have like a party of personas, right?
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else can only summon one. Which is why like it's important to pick your party, because you need to be like, okay, I'm going to take Yukari because Yukari's like, she has like a healer persona, so she's going to be my support. But then like Sanada, for example, he's like a electric user, and none of my personas have electric, so I'm going to take Sanada to offset the fact that I don't have that. He has a lot of physical attacks. Or you could be like, I need Junpei because he's got fire. Or like Amada's another great support because Amada can heal, but he can also like create shields around people that can block attacks against their weaknesses. Or you can also take Kukumari because he's a dog and he's cute. Like there's tons of different like reasons. Well, he has fire and dark attacks, but yeah, I'd love the dog Kukumari. Like I know most of the characters, like they're like almost like real people to me. It's like there's Yukari, Yuko, Fuka, Mitsuru, Sanada, Amada, Kikamaru. Like I know so many of the characters to the point that to a point where I'm just like, oh, these are just my friends. These are people I know, sort of thing.
Right.
Like you spend so much time with these characters that they do feel like people you know in a weird way. in the most like self-aware parasocial way I can say.
Yeah, I think it's fine if you acknowledge it, I suppose.
It's going down.
Another banger.
Yep.
Okay, this is a complete Tangerine. But how the hell do you even start coming up with songs like this?
Just be really talented.
Right. I guess we'll never know.
So you get one more. So if you hit an enemy's weakness, you get another attack. And then there's also a mechanic called shifting. So if you get a weakness on a character, if you hit a weakness of one of your opponents, you can then shift to another character that might have an attack that you don't have that will hit a weakness of one of your enemies. So then it's all about like comboing attacks together to knock down the entire enemy team and then using an all-out attack because it deals lots of damage. It's like one of the main gameplay loops sort of things, which is pretty cool. Oh, this is the Velvet Room, which I was talking about. Also, Elizabeth here is a kind of romanceable character, which I think if you're going for the no-noncery run is a pretty good strat because I think you are. So just put this out there. You're a 16-year-old in this game. You're in high school, so most of the characters that you will get into romantic relationships with will also be like 16. But you know, in the fashion of the game, there's no like Witcher 3 style scenes. It's like you go to the bedroom, you hold hands, and then the camera cuts, and you know. That whatever happens, you know. It's just that there's implications, but other than that, you know. I never said this was a squeak. I said the soundtrack was squeaky clean. I never said the game was squeaky clean.
That's understandable.
Somebody was saying the other day, they were like, "Oh man, these Japanese games are usually really horny," and I'm like, "There's no way that you can say Japanese games are so horny when." The biggest Western game of last year was Baldur's Gate 3, which is the horniest game of all time.
I think I'm gonna be honest. I think the only difference is like how we show it. I think it's basically the same level, same energy.
Oh, but I love this. Just this classical music always plays when you're making personas in the Velvet Room. I do think the theming of I think the Velvet Room exists in other Persona games, and the theming of it is really cool because in this one it's an elevator, which I cannot go into for story stuff, but I think it's really cool. Again, I love the menus, like when you go to the police station to talk to the police officer who sells you weapons for some reason. As you go through the menu, it's like a revolver, and as you go up and down it, it goes through the chamber of a revolver's gun, and I'm like, that's so fucking cool, man. Like, the UI design is so good. Like, Persona as a game is fucking stylish. Everything is stylish in this game. Like, the music, the UI, the characters, everything, right?
Yeah. I think I do appreciate non-boring UI. Like, I feel like in the Western sphere, like we've got a lot of really boring, like standardized UI, and it's like I think we need more imagination.
I can kind of relate to you. I mean, my dad died
Intimacy and to be close.
My mom and I aren't exactly on good terms. You're all alone too, aren't you? To be honest, I already heard about your past.
Oh yeah, your parents were killed. Or this happens at the start of the game. Like this, your parents are both dead, right?
Like Batman, like Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, like Bruce Wayne.
Supposedly, my dad died in the blast, but nobody.
I'll see if I can find some social link stuff.
Isn't enough. Without your persona, you're
I
screwed.
think I had some in this. But for love.
The world. On.
Skipping around. Things you've been laughing about behind my back. Maybe I don't have any social link stuff.
Parents found it.
guess I'll just get. So this is 72 hours in turning, but this is Tartarus.
Okay. So we'll skip forward a few.
Yeah, just a little bit. So you can see I've got a like this. So this is my party. So here I'm running Yukari as support. I think Yukari is probably one of the best party members to take because she's just a fucking kick-ass support. But here's some of the you can see some of the crazy personas I have. Like I have Loki, the trickster god. Like you can fuse Satan and the Messiah in this game. Like there's some crazy stuff you can do. But yeah, and I think I don't know if it was like this in the base game, but the bottom of Tartarus is just like very samey green. But in this game, once you get to a new floor, even though it's kind of the similar-ish layout, they completely change the decoration of the floors, and they have slightly different layouts, but the actual theming is completely different for each floor, which I think really helps change how it feels as well, which is really cool.
I guess going in with like, the whole like design and aesthetic aspect.
Yeah. Most of the characters, I think every character here is wearing a costume because you can get costumes for the characters.
Okay. They're
Also,
really all out on
I got
this
the
whole-
weapon called
load
Bone,
of
which
thing.
gives you massive crit and Kokamaru, but I'm like, how am I not going to have him use the weapon that's literally a bone when he's a dog? Like, I have to use that weapon.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, just you're finding a castle with legs. I'm very confused, but I understand.
Yeah. You don't question it. In Persona.
You don't need to know. You don't need to know.
I don't think it's ever really explained why they look so strange. It's just like, yeah, they're demons.
they're not.
They're just kind of like this.
Okay.
And I think a lot of the models are actually reused from Persona 5 Royal for a lot of them as well. It's a bold choice to name your Persona Isis, but I guess maybe they didn't know. I mean, again, this game came out a long time ago. So you see the enemies, the enemy there used an electric attack, and so you'll start to figure stuff out. It's like, wind is weak to electric, which means electric's weak to wind. You're like start to naturally. This enemy looks like they cast a lot of wind spells. They must be weak to electric. So you can start like as you play the game, you'll naturally figure this stuff out. But Yukari, my healer, is a wind user, but she's weak to electric. And remember how I told you that if you use a weakness on an enemy on your attack, you get another turn. Same thing applies for the enemies. If they hit one of your weaknesses, they get to do another attack. So a lot of the time you're trying to cover your weaknesses and you want to try and take party members that are not weak to the specific opponents. For random encounters you can't really do that, but when it comes to boss fights, which this game has quite a few of, you can start to be like, okay, I'm not going to put this person in the party because they have a weakness to this, and you kind of change your party around based what you kind of need for that fight. You don't get to see it beforehand, but if you go into it and you lose, you can be like, okay, I'm going to retry that fight with a different party.
Oh, okay, so when you die, that resets you back to.
There's choices. There's a couple of choices you get when you die. The quickest one to get back in is you can restart the fight from the beginning. So you'll have the same party and everything else, but you just basically start the fight from the beginning. Your second option is to restart from the beginning of Tartarus. So you'll restart from the beginning, but you get to change up your party and stuff like that. And then you also have the opportunity to lower your difficulty if you want to. I think this game may let you lower your difficulty anytime, but I'm not sure. I was playing on the normal difficulty, which I was just like, okay, I've never played a Persona game. Let's just try normal. I would say the game was never particularly hard, particularly super hard. I felt like playing on normal. I was never really. There was a couple of times, and I was like, okay, I feel like this is a kind of hard, but most of the time I was kind of beating bosses in one attempt sort of thing. I was kind of breezing through it. so take that as you
Yeah.
will. Like if you've played Persona 3 before, you'd probably want to put it on a higher difficulty. But I'm not
I
sure.
seem to be used to like JRPG stuff with like the element switching stuff. I actually you want it on a harder difficulty
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, this son of a gun, summoning more minions. So this is like a mini boss enemy I'm fighting right now because you'll encounter these as you go up the tower sort of thing to kind of block your path. But yeah, this is just like a general taste of what it's like to... So you'll have, in the game, you'll unlock Fuka, and what Fuka does is she can support you from... So she'll always be with you, but she's outside of your party. And these are... And she'll be like, okay, I can scan an enemy, but it'll cost SP. I can't believe I haven't explained SP at any point until this point. So, you know mana. SP is your mana, basically.
It's like yeah. A lot of games use SP for your ability usage.
But you remember how I was saying, like, oh, it's really good to clear Tartarus in one day because then you get more time to do social links, which are gated by time sort of thing?
Yeah.
A reason why this is hard is because as you go through Tartarus and you cast your spells for your personas, they cost SP. So you will, as you get further and further up the tower, start to run out of SP. You can offset this by buying SP items, but there's far and few between. Like, I got into the habit of early game, you can only really buy SP from vending machines, and they get restocked on Sunday. So every Sunday, I would run around and buy all of the SP items from the vending machines. That's like a great tip for new players. If you're getting stuck, not being able to progress through Tartarus, like, very quickly, try and buy all the SP items from the vending machines. I love how they're all called, like, they're all like fake versions of real drinks. Like, you have like Mad Bull, and there'll be like probiotics called the 4-biotic and stuff like that. Or Fountain Dew is another one.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. But as you deal damage and stuff, you'll have these things called Theurgies. Like you can see here, my dog Kokomaru has his Theurgy fully charged, and the way you charge their Theurgy is not actually just a static thing. It's based on their personality. So Yukari's a healer, for example. So she gets her Theurgy charged by healing and protecting other people, whereas your main character will charge his Theurgy just by dealing persona like magic damage. Like, stats on your personas are important because your stats will dictate the kinds of attacks they do. So this is a Theurgy, and Theurgies like big attacks that have like an animation, but what's really useful about them is they will usually deal a specific type of damage that can help with weaknesses, but as part of their effect, they ignore all resistances for that attack. So even if you're using like a dark attack Theurgy on an enemy that's resistant to dark attacks, it will still deal damage, but it won't, make them weak or anything. Which is quite useful. But yeah, as you build your party, you'll be like, I'm going to start comboing Theurgies and different characters together to try and get the best characters. Like Mitsuru is quite...
You combine
personas.
How the hell does that like actually combine, and what actual stats are being combined? Or is it just like pre-made, like fusions like in Yu-Gi-Oh?
So what are you asking about stats? About what in particular?
Like when you fuse personas or like whatever that system is, like I don't know, how does that actually?
Right. So when
what choices do you actually have, and what actually stats get combined?
Yeah. So your persona stats will be influenced by the base personas used to fuse them. To fuse a lot of personas, you actually take personas you already have, and you basically make them into one new persona. And what happens when you do that, it'll carry up some of the stats of the previous persona. It will carry over some of their skills, and then their stats will be dictated by your social rank with that persona's overarching arcana. Then, on top of that, you'll get items that will let you that they're called incenses. They will let you basically go in and manually increase certain stats. So say, for example, I had a persona called Loki who his abilities were he had like one of every elemental attack, and then he had a pass. So there's direct attacks and there's passives. So like, for example, there'll be auto Sakuja or whatever it's called, where at the start of the battle you'll get like increased defense or attack, and that's a passive. But if you run that, it's really useful because it goes off at the start of every fight, but then you're giving up an active slot to use a different ability. So you have to kind of, and you have item cards like what are they called, a PP, or what are they called in Pokemon?
Well,
item numbered
I
cards.
call them items, but yeah, I know. I think that you equip on them and then use it at the start of the battle.
No. When you can like teach a Pokemon a skill, you can also
TMs.
TMs. In Persona, you have TMs, so I can teach specific skills to specific personas. And then with Incense, I can be like, okay, this persona, I'm going to be using a lot of persona attacks, which are magic attacks, so I massively increase their magic. I also want my persona to attack quicker, so I'm going to increase their agility, which lets me go quicker in the attack order. And then, like, if you have like a persona that has physical attacks, you can increase their strength, which then increases their physical attacks. Like you have something I didn't realize until even like later in the game is there's 3 different types of physical attacks. I thought all physical attacks were the same, but there's actually 3, and it changes based on your character as well. So, for example, Baloney-kun, Joe himself, he's got a sword, so he deals slash physical attacks when he auto attacks. But right. Yukari has a bow, so she deals pierce physical attacks.
Yep.
And then
Makes
Sanada
sense.
uses Knuckle Duster, so he has strike physical attacks.
Right.
And that certain enemies will be weak to different physical attacks, which is really interesting. So like a lot of the time you may be like, oh, I'm going to run a party with 4 guys with swords, but that then means you don't have like your pierce and your strike covered in your like general weakness hunting. So yeah, there's a lot of like, I think the game can be like it's like pretty simplistic to start with, but there's a lot of like depth and nuance to it once you get into the systems.
Yeah. It's kind of like Pokemon, but on steroids.
And even then, again, like Tony, you're not talking about the social stuff. If you're like, oh, it's nighttime and I don't have any social links to talk to, you can go to the arcade and you can train a specific persona's skills up by playing arcade machines. So there's like, or you're like, okay, I need to get my charm up. Or like, even outside of social link stuff, it's like, oh, I need to do this quest to go inside of this club, but this club's outside this area full of like a bunch of like gangster criminal people. You need to get high enough courage to be brave enough to go into this like club area sort of thing. So it's like there's always so Elizabeth, the woman who works in the Velvet Room where you fuse your personas, she'll give you quests, and it's usually very helpful to do these quests because she'll give you really good rewards for doing them. But yeah, man, this game is fucking phenomenal. And one of the things that I hate about playing this game is that Balatro and Persona 3 Reload came out like on the same year, and also like a week apart or something like that as well. I'm like, holy shit! Like, I've just played 2 5 out of 5 games next to each other, and I'm gonna have to try and figure out which one I prefer potentially. When they're such different games in a lot of ways, but still like very deserving. Like I played this game and I was like, this is one of the best games I've played in a long time. Tony, I went into this game 0 expectations, thinking I wasn't gonna like it, and I was like, you know what? I said this year I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna give things a chance I normally wouldn't have given a chance, and I fucking loved this game. I absolutely adored it.
Played JRPGs or anything like you normally?
No, my first one I played was last year was the Super Mario RPG, the Square Enix like Mario RPG, and I was like, oh, that was pretty fun.
That was alright. Okay. This one, to me, it seems way better in terms of.
This is way more depth to it. there's way more systems, but also the Super Mario RPG one was way shorter. It was like 12, 13 hours to complete the game or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I liked, that it was like it didn't require a bunch of time. Like this game
definitely a place for
requires
medium
commitment
games.
to get into it.
Yeah. The main problem with both types JRPG, to be honest, is like that. Yeah, it's just a lot of commitment for the story that may or may not be good. But yeah, I think the story's good on this as well. Like I feel like there's actually to me a very strong positive for the JRPG.
I made some light notes about things that could be improved, but it's a really short list, and I think most people agree on this.
Like nitpicks.
Yeah, when you're running around Tartarus, characters have unique dialogue, and they will, based on the party members, and it's interesting to listen to what they're going to say. Like if you have like Aegis, Yukari, and Mitsuru, for example, they'll be like, "Hey, is this some sort of harem? What's going on? Why do you have 3 women together?" It's like, oh, okay. But if you ever like interact with an item, or one of your party members sees an item, everything interrupts that dialogue and then it goes away. I would love it if if everything didn't interrupt Tartarus dialogue. Also,
I think a lot of games have that problem.
In a lot of time, when I go into the items menu, like outside of battle or mid battle, I'm just looking for a HP item or an SP item. Every item you have is in a single menu. And also, some of your SP and HP items are even split up. They're not always next to each other. If there was a single menu to be like, just show me SP items and just show me HP items, it would be so much more useful and so much easier to find what I was looking for.
That is, I will say that it's one thing where I find, and this isn't generalization, this isn't true all the time, but where Japanese games tend to kind of...
Well, it's not just a Japanese thing, because like that's one of the first things I do when I play Fallout New Vegas. I'm like, this menu is fucking awful. I need it categorized so I can actually find stuff. Like Bethesda, famously, every single one of their games has the UI redesigned by mods.
Yeah, 100%. But I would still argue that, from what you were describing, like I think I would still prefer the Fallout New Vegas' wide system than this. But yeah, it's not unique to Japan either. But I feel like there's a lot of good, like out of the box inventory management games in the West.
Yeah. But yeah, a menu for stat boost would also be useful. There's a lot of useful stuff. Like, I love that there's a fast forward button. I'm never fast forwarding through dialogue, but there's a lot of times when it's basically just coming up with a bunch of menus that say, here's what you got. Something that you already know is happening. You can just skip through it quickly.
Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice.
Or you can even like fast forward through like battles that are enemies that are very weak. So you can be like, okay, I'm going to immediately kill these guys with auto attacks. It'll just fast forward through it and basically just auto attack them with every turn you have. Also with this game,
that's really good.
at the beginning of the game, it asks you whether you want to individually control each one of your party members. I'd recommend you do this. Because one of the biggest complaints about the original Persona was that you couldn't control your party members, and sometimes they would just do the most random shit, and it would just completely troll you. It's not that micromanaging. You're just being like, okay, am I going to heal this turn this character, or I'm going to make them do an attack, or am I going to make them use an item? And it's basically just giving you more options. It's not like a tedious thing. I'd recommend you control your individual party members because it'll make here's me cycling through 100 things to find one thing. Because every single consumable item is in one menu.
There's an example. Nice.
Yeah. I adore this game. I think immediately halfway through playing this, I saw that Persona 5 went on sale and I immediately bought it. I was like, okay, I have to play Persona 5 now. Like, I have to experience that now. I was thinking about picking up Persona 4 Golden, but I was like, I feel like they're going to make a Persona 4 Reload style game where they're going to make it again in the Persona 5 Reload style. So I'll just wait for that.
That's fine there as well, yeah.
Apparently they're working on Persona 6 at the moment, which I'm very excited for. I really want to play. Like, I've become a Persona fan now. Like, I remember years ago, a friend of mine's brother was saying like, oh, Persona, you have to play Persona. It's like this weird mix of like social interactions and RPG, and it's like one of the best games ever played. And I was just thinking, I mean, a game can't be that good, right? Or that unique or that interesting. And I've played Persona now, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. I finally understand what people are talking about, and it is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
It is as good as everyone was saying it was. Like, I love this game, and I want to play more Persona. That's my ultimate takeaway
I
from
will
playing
say,
this.
you streamed little bits of this like when you first started playing. So
Yeah.
I definitely now understand some of the mechanics better, but I definitely want to try it at some point.
Oh, the shuffle time. There's so much about the game I just haven't explained, but it's like we're over an hour now, and I'm like, I can't go any more like than this because I will just talk about Persona for like 3 hours. So
get the Games Pass.
get the Games Pass, play the game, or like I kind of wish I could play this on deck. Like getting the Steam release for the Steam Deck. Wait, Tony, do you have your Steam Deck?
Oh yeah, spoilers, guys. I finally got it. I've got a parcel for story for later, but
Oh, okay.
I'll
I'll talk to me about it later. Yeah.
Spoilers.
But yeah. Thanks for listening to me rant about a game for an hour, Tony. But just to let you know, if you didn't know already, this game is really good.
Well, I didn't know it until you showed me, but now I do know, and it's on my list, and I think on the deck, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Persona 5 goes quite cheap these days, so definitely one I'd recommend looking at. Oh, this is really cool, the clock. So
The clock.
when you have certain party members with you, they'll naturally get more XP than you, so they put in this mechanic where your lower level party members, you can level them up by going into Tartarus and using this clock item that you get from once per Tartarus, which is really useful because the party member that's the lowest level will get more levels than somebody that you choose that's higher level. So you're like incentivized to try and level up your lower party members and then try and switch between them. So it never you never get to a point where you're like, okay, I want to use this other party member, but I can't because they're too low level. It kind of keeps them close together, which is really useful.
I think later Pokemon games fix this, but the ones I played the most didn't really have that. It's like you're just there grinding lower level ones to get the ones you want.
Yeah, thanks for checking this out, and yeah, Persona 3. See you later, goodbye.
Bye!